I've been talking about doing this for some time. I just want to get into the issue of peace. Consider, this war that George W. Bush has brought us, this kind of never-ending war and all this kind of thing. And just wanted to talk about peace. John Kennedy gave a speech at Michigan State University back when I was a kid. I wasn't there and didn't hear it, but we have a recording of it. And he talked about peace. Here he is.
I have therefore chosen this time and place to discuss a topic on which ignorance too often abounds and the truth too rarely perceived, and that is the most important topic on earth, peace.
The most important topic on earth.
What kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we seek? Not a Pax Americana, enforced on the world by American weapons of war, not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope and build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
Peace in all time. And, what was Kennedy talking about when he was talking about this peace? This is, in my opinion, one of his best speeches ever. I mean, he devoted this entire speech to peace. He in this speech, and I'll play more of it after the break. He talks about supporting the United Nations. He talks about there is literally no country, no people who are so evil that they don't deserve some respect from us and that they don't deserve peace. It was a complete repudiation of George W. Bush's whole, we're going to get them, we're going to kill them, we're going to bomb, Afghanistan, Iraq, the whole thing. A complete repudiation of that doctrine. It's an absolutely brilliant speech that I think we need to hear again as we're looking at the possibility of worldwide conflict even this moment. We'll be back with more. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, 20 minutes past the hour. John Kennedy, I just, for a few minutes here, just let's step into the Wayback Machine. Given all the conflicts around the world, given, President Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize in anticipation, I would submit, that he was going to wind down and end George Bush's wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Unnecessary, illegal wars that led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, the displacement and destroying the lives of millions of people, generations of birth defects and post-traumatic stress disorder and families ripped apart, and an entire region that has learned to hate America because of the actions of this, small cabal of war criminals in the George W. Bush administration. But Jack Kennedy, back in the 1960s, this was June 10th, 1963, right around this time, the summer of 1963, pushing back, and actually 63, that was 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 63, that'd be 50 years ago, yeah, pushing back on the idea of war. Here he is.
I speak of peace, therefore, as the necessary, rational end of rational men. I realize the pursuit of peace is not as dramatic as the pursuit of war, and frequently the words of the pursuers fall on deaf ears, but we have no more urgent task.
And there really is no more urgent task, and we need to...
No government or social system is so evil that its people must be considered as lacking in virtue.
Yet we killed hundreds of thousands of Iraqis.
Our military forces are committed to peace and disciplined in self-restraint. Our diplomats are instructed to avoid unnecessary irritants and purely rhetorical hostility.
At least they were until John Bolton came along.
For we can seek a relaxation of tensions without relaxing our guard. And for our part, we do not need to use threats to prove we are resolute.
Unless you're George Bush.
Meanwhile, we seek to strengthen the United Nations to help solve its financial problems, to make it a more effective instrument for peace, to develop it into a genuine world security system, a system capable of resolving disputes on the basis of law, of ensuring the security of the large and the small, and of creating conditions under which arms can finally be abolished.
And then he promised we'd never start a war.
The United States, as the world knows, will never start a war. We do not want a war. We do not now expect a war. This generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression.
Yes. Keep in mind, I mean, this is a guy who fought in World War II, whose PT ship was cut in half or blown up and rescued his guys and was stuck in the Pacific. I mean, he this is a guy who really knew war, from a generation that knew war. His older brother, Joe Kennedy, who was supposed to be president, run for president, at least in his dad's mind, his older brother was killed in World War II. So this was somebody who understood what he was speaking of.
We shall be prepared if others wish it. We shall be alert to try to stop it. But we shall also do our part to build a world of peace where the weak are safe and the strong are just. We are not helpless before that task or hopeless of its success. Confident and unafraid, we must labor on, not towards a strategy of annihilation, but towards a strategy of peace.
There you go. So, you can. I know there are going to be cynics who are going to say, yeah, he was saying that while he was trying to kill Castro and he was sending some soldiers into Vietnam. Sure. You can be as cynical as you wish. And yet, he began the conversation. And he was actually trying to work out peace with Castro. And he did avoid a world war with Khrushchev during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And this is not to deify John Kennedy. In fact, it's not even to really comment on his presidency, because he had his share of screw-ups. He was certainly no George W. Bush. Oh, yeah, let's have a war. Let's just bomb some people. That's night and day. But the point is that, this is sort of like, Obama's speech the other day about no longer contributing to global warming and then saying, but natural gas is wonderful, without mentioning fracking. You can take a cynical response to it. You can say, yeah, it's, good words, but the fact of the matter is that at least the conversation has been joined. Instead of having a president who is constantly telling us to be afraid, as Richard Nixon had done during the Cold War, back when he was president, and before that when he was vice president, be afraid of the Soviets, be afraid of the Vietnamese, be afraid of the Chinese, be afraid of, duck and cover. Be afraid. George W. Bush, be afraid of the Muslims. Start a crusade. They want to build a caliphate. Oh my God, look out. Instead of having a president who's saying be afraid, John Kennedy was saying, no, we can be the land of the free and the home of the brave. We can stand strong and advocate for peace. There have been times during the history, during our lifetimes, specifically during the Bush-Cheney, Rumsfeld, John Yoo, Jay Bybee, Alberto Gonzales, Condoleezza Rice war criminal administration, when people who spoke out in favor of peace were, actively booted off the air. Phil Donahue out of MSNBC. Bill Maher thrown off, I think it was ABC. Simply because they said, war? You really want a war? No, I don't think so. So let's engage the conversation. Let's engage the conversation about peace. Let's engage the conversation about global warming. Let's begin.